And it is midweek, and it is the opportunity for us to just pause for a moment. These are purposeful pauses that we take. And just center ourselves on where we are right now and where we want to be. If this is not where we want to be in mind or in whatever it is we're doing, well, we can reappraise it and then make a different decision and decide to be other than that. Because the power is in the thinking. The power is in the mind. The power is always at our spiritual fingertips, so to speak. I can change my mind at any time, and so can you. I can let go of the horror stories in my mind in any second, and so can you. I can erase and replace like that, and so can you. See, life is what you decide life is. Life is what you think it is, what you know it is, what you feel it is, and nothing else. Because there's nothing good nor bad, as Shakespeare said, but thinking makes it so. Someone will think this is bad, and somebody else will think this is good, and so on, and you're well versed with that. So what are you thinking today? What was the first thought you thought when you woke up this morning? What was going through your mind this morning when you awakened into a new day? And then, what was your first feeling as a consequence? Now, if all that is good, keep supporting it. If it wasn't good, then you get to change it. Change your mind. We all can do it, and we do it all the time. You know, changing our minds is no bother to any one of us. We can change our minds at the drop of a hat. It's changing our minds and keeping our minds changed. That's the challenge. Keeping the mind changed. That's the challenge. So is there anything in your life right now that maybe you could change your mind about? It's your choice. You have a sovereign choice in this. Anything you want to rethink or just simply let go of as a thought. Because as your thoughts go, so go your feelings. If I'm thinking it enough, I'm going to be feeling it enough. And once I think and once I feel and put those two together, that marriage is solid. And something's going to happen as a consequence of it. It will produce something as a consequence of that marriage. So it behooves you and it behooves me to pay attention to what we're thinking. Because what we're thinking is going to sink down into us, and then it's going to move into feeling as well. And once you get a thought and a feeling and you get convicted about it, well, it's going to happen in some way or another. It could happen as a headache. It could happen as a nice surprise, an unexpected good, or an unexpected pain or ache. So you're the master of your own thoughts. You're the master of your own thoughts. Now, as I was thinking this morning, what is it that Spirit would like us to think about? And as you know, I always have books around me. It doesn't matter where I am. I always have a book. If it's not in my purse, I have a book somewhere. I can tell you that. So when I reached out this morning, I picked up a very old Unity magazine, and there was a little piece in it I read about the new paradigm. This is something we're hearing all of the time, a new way of being, a new method of doing life and living. And it all sounds very wonderful when you're looking at it and talking about it and so on. It sounds great and good. Yes, let's do it. But when it comes to putting that into practice, it's a whole different thing. And why is that? It's because of our tendency as egoic individuals to resist change of any kind. Even if the change is for our good, we resist it. We like to cling to, we're Klingons when it comes to ideas and, habits and so on and so forth. We cling. And it makes it a little bit, to say the least, difficult when we want to create a new thought a new idea, when we want to establish a new thought and a new idea, create new rungs in that brain of ours, that beautiful, amazing brain of ours, that can erase and replace in time an old habit, an old idea, an old story. So yes, we're cusping into something new and different right now as a global community. Or I should say we have the opportunity to do that. Or we have the opportunity to go back to the way things were. That's never a good idea, no matter how good things may have been. It's never a good idea to go back to how things were. Why is that? It's because things can always be better. Improvement can always happen. And why would we want to go back when we're in a forward movement? You can't do those two things at one time. There's no going back and forward at the same time. Impossible. So let us then, who are interested, those of us who are interested in spirituality and establishing a world that is safer and kinder and more compassionate, and a world that provides for all of its citizens in a way that each citizen can have a decent life, can live in safety and security, and with enough to live comfortably. Those are the basic needs of each and every one of us, and that we take care of all of life, nature too. Mother Nature needs to be taken care of in a big way too. So our work is cut out for us right now. It always has been, truly always has been. And it's just like housekeeping. If you let up for any length of time, it goes to heck in a handbasket. And so, you have a whole lot of work to do then to catch up. Well, planet Earth is like that. Mother Nature's like that. We're all like that. That's why steady consistency is very important. Just the regular steps every day that keep us sane and healthy and progressive in the unfolding of our lives into the wonderful thing that they're meant to be. And we can do that more easily if we have support around us, if we have a supportive household, if we have a supportful work environment, if we have a supportful whatever in our lives. That's very important because we do walk the road of life alone together. And that together is very, very, very important. But each individual one of us is in that life, and each individual one of us has our own thoughts, our own ideas, our own sense and sensibility. And those, in order for us to be a progressive and succeeding community, have to be along the lines of what is whole and wholesome and what is true and not false, that honors and respects and nurtures and nourishes all life around us. That is what it is to have a spiritual life, and I dare say anyone that's looking in is interested in having a spiritual life. Not that your spiritual life is separate from any other aspect of your life. Why? Because it's all spiritual. All of life is spiritual. We live in a spiritual universe. We live in a mental universe. But we have, over the eons, divided everything, compartmentalized everything, separated everything, put everything in little boxes, and usually pay attention only to the stuff that's in the boxes we like, we prefer. And furthermore, not only do we like and prefer what we have in our little boxes, but we think everybody else should like and prefer those too. And that's where problems arise, because everybody's different. So, there are the basic, universal, fundamental principles in life. Everybody has a right to, is entitled to, has the birthright to freedom of expression, justice, an opportunity to live in a way wherein each individual has the ability and the wherewithal to thrive in safety, in security, in community that is supportive of the basic fundamental needs of a human being who is having a spiritual experience in the universal sense, because the human being has never been anything other than spiritual in the universal sense. So the time that we spend on planet Earth as human beings is very, 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 it's just a breath by comparison to our eternal life. But it's a very important breath. And none of us are here at a whim. We are all here to learn something. I don't know whether you've realized it or not yet, but planet Earth is a school. It's a school where you learn. You come and learn stuff here. And what we're supposed to learn are coping skills to begin with, and then refined skills that help us to navigate this world like the masterful energies that we are in truth and are endeavoring on planet Earth to remember, to wake up and remember into that mastery again. So here we all are, masters to a great degree already, totally ignorant of the fact that we are, for the most part. And then running around and bumping into each other like buffoons, as though we had no inkling or recognition of the masters we are. It's fascinating when you really stand back and observe. See, that's what we're all invited to be, observers on this plane, witnesses to what's going on, an observer to what's going on, in the sense of non-judgmentalism, not in the sense of non-action, but just to be the observer and the witness to everything that's going on from a purely objective point of view, just from the witness's point of view, like you were an eyewitness. A good one, and not from any sense of judgment. Okay, so this is what happens here, and this is what happens there. They're like this, they're like that, he's like this, she's like that. Interesting. So you do that as an observer and as a witness, and then when you get very good at that, you get to decide, well, how can I contribute then and ease things on this plane? How can I help raise energy on this plane? How can I help and assist peace on this plane to be realized? You see where I'm going with the witness and the observer? Not just somebody who sits around observing and witnessing, does nothing to contribute in any way. Like the man in the scripture who hid his talent. He didn't know what to do with it. He was afraid if he did anything with it, he'd lose it, and then he'd suffer the master's wrath. But of course, not using it got worse wrath brought upon himself. So it's a Wednesday, yeah, and this is kind of high thinking. But it's good for us all to tune in every now and again and see, what in heaven's name am I doing? Where in heaven's name am I in my mind? Where in heaven's name am I going with all of this? What's going on in the life of planet Earth by means of me today? Is it a blessed and more blessed place because I'm awake in it? Or is it just, or am I maybe depreciating some of its energy through the way I'm thinking and feeling and so on? And not to be done on yourself as a judgment that criticizes you at all, but just to tune in and see where you are. In other words, am I awake or have I gone asleep? Am I present to my life or am I, God knows where I am with that? And none of spirituality, get this very straight, my dear ones, none of spirituality has to do with berating you. clobbering you, putting you down. You do a good job of that yourself, and so do I. We don't need anybody to do that for us. We do a good job of it ourselves. No, spirituality is just a mirror. Hold it up and say, look, here it seems to me this is what you're doing and being and seeing right now. Do you want to keep doing that, or would you like to change something, and how can I help? That's the way it goes. We have to stop being shocked by each other. Well, I would expect him, and I would expect her, and so on. Really? Well, what would you expect of yourself to begin with? All of us on planet Earth are wearing clay feet, no matter how good we come across as. We all have clay feet, and they're brittle, and they can easily be injured, broken. A lot of repairs have to go on those feet throughout our lifetimes. So, it brings us back to the scripture that says, let the one without sin cast the first stone. As all of those crazy mob-like men gather together to stone the woman caught in adultery in the scriptures. Isn't that funny? The women get stoned and the men get away scot-free. In fact, they get to judge and sentence and condemn and kill. That's never sat well with me. It never sounded like a love message. And that was what the Master Jesus was all about, love. Not soppy, silly love, but strong and potent and powerful love that could be honest, that could be just, that could be compassionate, that could be understanding, that could be healing, that could be kind, that could be forgiving. And to this day, we still stone each other, to this very day. The stones may not be made of material form. The way we stone each other today is even more harmful than with a stone. That is a material stone. The poet did say, the stripes of the lash will scar your very bones, but the stripes from the lashes of a tongue can kill. So, dear hearts and gentle people, the message today, believe it or not, is one of joy. It's one of upliftment. It's one of high energy. It's one of, you can do this. You can do this thing called life. You can. Doesn't matter how low down you are in that pit at the moment and feel you're being buried in it. You can rise up out of that. You can roll that stone off that tomb, and you can come forth into a new way of thinking, into a new way of feeling, into a new way of being. Yes, you can. And so can everybody else, and people have proved it since time immemorial. That they can change no matter what their lives have been. The most debauched characters can change, turn around, and become sainted. And have done, and still do. So you and I can change some bothersome thing in our lives as well, whatever that is. We can create for ourselves a new way of being, a new paradigm. And the few little pointers that I wanted to share with you from this article from the Unity magazine of way back when are just, it just talks about the paradigm, and that the new paradigm that we're cusping into right now, like any paradigm, any new paradigm is going to be met with a great deal of resistance, because that's how we handle change for the most part on planet Earth. We resist mightily to begin with until we don't. And so these are just some pointers. Becoming this is called Becoming a Paradigm Pioneer. Learning to fully accept our sacred self requires vision, patience, and a focused commitment, and commitment is very important. The process involves opening our minds to new ways of seeing ourselves and our relationship with our higher power. a new way of seeing ourselves, and a new way of being in communication with our higher power. And I can guarantee you, if you are in communication with your higher power, with the great self of yourself, that inner amazing, amazing energy of grace, which is wholeness and completeness, then change will be very easy indeed. So, but we have to have that connection with something greater than our small selves. We have to connect with our greater self for this to happen. And some part of every day must be given to that. Becoming active in the disciplines of daily study, self-observation, meditation, and journaling, and whatever else it is that gets you into that unified state of being and connected with the greater good, the greater source of all life and living. These are just two of these amazing things that we're invited to ponder and consider, to understand. And there's more, which, if the divine has it in mind for us to continue on these lines, we will continue next Wednesday. If not, it'll be something different, but it'll be the same thing. But since we're caught up in this cusping of movement, of transition, of coming out of one experience and moving into another, there's the turbulence, there's the truculence, there's all of that seems to be dissonance. But it's just part of our birth process, and we're familiar with the birth process and its pangs and so on. But the question is, it's not going to happen if you and if I are not connected to our inner being, if we're not connected to the greatness of ourselves, the moreness of ourselves, the spiritual aspect of ourselves, the soul of ourselves, the spirit of ourselves. The whole self. The whole self. And that requires a discipline. And discipline is potent and powerful. It just means that I get into the habit of routine action when it comes to my spirituality. Same way as I brush my teeth, the first thing I do in the morning with regard to physical care is to brush my teeth. I'm sure you do the same thing. That it becomes that habitual for us to open our eyes and know we're here and we're not here alone, but we're in the power, we're in the presence of the Spirit that chose to express its own amazing, universal, magnificent whole self by means of you and by means of me. Go figure. I haven't figured it out yet, I can tell you that. But I'm jazzed at the idea of it. You know, that I'm not just all my faults and my failings, I'm not just all my accomplishments or whatever. I'm so much more than that. And the more that I am leaves all of that pale in the dust and has no significance. Once I come into my own and I unite with that great self, that one power, that one mind, that one body, that one grace. It's the only one there is. And you and I are part of it. So let's ponder that as we go about the day. Because if I'm one with it, every single person I meet today is one with it too. So that's why it's easy for us to be able to namaste each other. And I love that expression, namaste. You know, the light in me greets the light within you. And that's the simple version of it. It's even more than that. And I always think of Gandhi as he's falling, dying, looking up at his assassin and namasteing him. The light in me greets the light within you. See, it can be done. It certainly can be done. And it reminds me of the words of another, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. You know, as the great, amazing Christ of Jesus expires on a very painful piece of wood, etc. It happens all the time. There are people like that around us all the time that have that kind of valor, that kind of courage, and that kind of spiritual potency. And that could be you, and that could be me too, really, because that's what you're called to, and that's what I'm called to. You're strong, you're potent, you're powerful, far beyond anything you might imagine. Wouldn't it be lovely if we could all put that to good use within our own lives and the lives of everything else? So now, dear ones, it's time for us to celebrate. It's to celebrate our enoughness, our fullness, our plenty. And we do that by, and I believe I have mine here, I do, by taking our gift, I always remember the definition of money that Charles Raymond Barker declared once. He says, money is God in action. Money is a beautiful thing. It's just energy. It's God in circulation. It's God in action in this way. And I can remember my mother always said, money is round, made round to go round. And she would say things like, charity, yes, it does begin at home, but it should never end there. And it was wonderful to grow up with these principles ringing in our ears until eventually they settle down into our hearts. And it all becomes an automatic thing, as you know, when you deeply love something. It's never a chore to be doing it. When you deeply love a place, it's always a joy to go there. When you deeply love a person, it's always that same sense of delight when you come into their presence. I can remember Reverend June once saying about her, her first husband, who was the love of her life. And no, it wasn't her first husband, it was her second husband who was the love of her life. And she said, I never, ever, ever, ever don't have that wonderful feeling when I come in after a day's work and I come in and I see him there and it just, my heart is giddy with delight. Isn't that beautiful? Well, think of that. And then by bazillions of times multiply it as the feeling you get when you suddenly come home to the spirit within yourself. There's no describing it, and it's worth the endeavor. So here we are, all endeavorers on this plane, on this beautiful starship planet Earth, making the endeavor to get to where we've never journeyed before in this lifetime, into ourselves, and come back home to ourselves. It's a beautiful thing. Now, we take our gift between our blessing hands and we say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And so it is, and so indeed it is. And I thank you deeply, deeply, deeply. I thank you. I thank you for all of your good deeds, your good thoughts, your good feelings, and the beautiful way you can show up. These are the things that make the difference in our world and keep it all going, glue it all together. So thank you for that. There's good that's happening because of you, and you have no idea about it. There's good that's happening because each one of us make up this community. And this community is in the forefront of being able to meet a need when it finds us. Thank you. And if there is anything we here can do for you, those of us who are holding the fort, you let us know. And if it is possible, we're there. Whatever we can do for you, we're committed to doing. So let us know. Do not go through all that stuff, whatever it is, on your own, isolated and cut off from everything and everyone because you can't share. Remember, whatever's going on in your life, that, and more than that's going on in other people's lives too. So reach out, and be supported. Be supported as you reach out and support others. Remember what they say about caregivers. they don't take very good care of themselves. So know that you're loved, know that you're cherished, and know that we are here for you, my dear ones. And there's no end to what I could tell you with regard to how much you are appreciated and how much we really mean it when we say we're here for you. So time she go fly, and this is what I'm going to know for each and every one. Right where I am, exactly as I am seen, I am held, I am embraced by that divine embrace that never lets me go. And I know that God's love will always keep me wherever I am, with whomever I am, however I am, because I am indeed a child of the universe. I am indeed the breath in the breath of spirit, the pulse in the pulse of spirit, the life form in the oceanic life of spirit. That's what I am. And I'm blessing that in myself and in all of life. And I am calling it good, and I'm calling it very good. And I'm blessing especially those who suffer greatly these days for all kinds of reasons, especially those who feel that they don't have a place, those who feel neglected, those who feel shunned, those who feel less than, those who feel like outcasts. Always the great ones had most wonderful, deep, loving compassion for people such as those of us amongst us who feel that sense of terrible isolation and not enoughness. For each of those beautiful people we're knowing, a light is dawning, a warmth is emerging from within them, and they're beginning to be able to rise up into an understanding and a feeling that life is getting better, and that each one is a very important part of that. So take good care of yourself. Take good care of your mind, your body, your heart, and your soul, as well as the body of your affairs, because you are so unique and so needed and so necessary to this life of ours. Just know that you can always rely upon that power within yourself, especially when you don't think you can rely upon your little self. Go there, go there, go there. So, again, thank you so much, and I'm going to leave you now the way the children always leave us. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Take good care, because you are irreplaceable. That's who you are. Thank you.